Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Plum Village. This is the fourth week of the summer opening. Some of us have been there for the very beginning, including Thai. The practice of mindfulness help us to generate the feeling of joy and happiness. If we know how to practice mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of walking, mindfulness of drinking, mindfulness of eating, mindfulness of playing, and then you can generate joy and happiness. And you can learn it in Plum Village. The practice of mindfulness can also help us to take care of our suffering. If we have anger or fear, or jealousy, or despair, mindfulness can help us calm down these feelings, these emotions, so that we will not suffer so much. Every one of us has pain and suffering inside, even if we are still very young. Therefore, you have to learn mindfulness in order to calm down the pain, the suffering in us. But what is the mindfulness? Mindfulness is a kind of energy, like electricity. Electricity can if we know how to use electricity, we can cook our breakfast. We can make boiled tea. We can have the light in a room during the night. So mindfulness is a kind of energy, and this energy we can generate by the practice of breathing, walking, sitting, and so on. And everyone can generate the energy of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a kind of energy that allowed us to be there in the here and the now. Because our mind very often is caught in the past or in the future or in our worries and our projects, and our mind is not there with our body. And when mind and body are separate, we are not truly there, alive. That is why mindfulness helps us bring mind home to the body. Suppose you breathe in, and if you breathe in mindfully, it means you focus your attention on your in-breath. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. And then in no time at all, like 2 seconds or 3 seconds, you can bring your mind home to your body. Very quick. And there mind and body are together and you are truly there, fully present in order to live your life. So mindfulness is the energy that helps you to be there, alive, in the here and the now. And one in-breath made in mindfulness can already do that. You don't need a lot of time, just 2 or 3 seconds. Or if you practice walking meditation, you walk slowly, and every step made in mindfulness can bring your mind home to your body, and you walk peacefully and happily. And that is called mindfulness of walking. There is a mindfulness of breathing, there is mindfulness of walking, there is the mindfulness of drinking. When you have an ice cream, you might like to eat it in mindfulness. And if you know how to eat your ice cream in mindfulness, it tastes much better. And it lasts longer. So mindfulness is a source of happiness. And we can learn mindfulness while we are in Plum Village. And many children have learned. And they are doing very well. This morning we practice a kind of mindfulness called mindfulness of suffering. This is not mindfulness of drinking, ice cream, eating, walking, but mindfulness of suffering. It means that we have some anger, some sorrow, some fear, some pain in ourselves. And most of us do not want to be in touch with that kind of pain and sorrow in us because we don't feel it pleasant. So most of us are trying to run away from our suffering. And we try to cover up the suffering with consumption. We turn on television to watch television so that we don't have to be in touch with the suffering inside. Even the television program is not very interesting, but we don't have the courage to turn it off, because we know if we turn it off, we have to go back and touch the suffering inside, and we don't like it. Or we pick up a novel or a magazine to read, and that is not because the novel or the magazine is so interesting, but because we want to forget the suffering inside. We want to run away from our own suffering. And we go to the internet, we listen to the music, we play electronic games, because we don't want to get in touch with the vacuum, with the loneliness, with the suffering inside. Not only children do that, but adults do that also. We are afraid that if we go home to ourselves and encounter the suffering inside, we will be overwhelmed. But mindfulness of suffering is to have the courage to go home and to take care of the suffering. And you go home and you say, "Dear suffering, I know you are there in me. I am going to take care of you." That is mindfulness of suffering. You go home and take care of your suffering, and take care of your anger, your fear, your loneliness. And you don't have to be afraid of being overwhelmed because you have a way to protect yourself. If you know how to practice breathing mindfully or walking mindfully, we generate that energy of mindfulness. And with that energy of mindfulness, we are stronger. And when we go home, we will not be overwhelmed by the suffering. Suppose my left hand represent the suffering, the anger, the loneliness inside of me. And suppose my right hand is mindfulness, energy of mindfulness that I generate by the practice of mindful breathing, mindful walking. So with this energy of mindfulness, I recognize the energy of suffering. I say, hello, my suffering, I know you are there, and I'm here in order to take care of you. That is mindfulness of suffering. And if we know how to practice mindfulness of suffering, we will suffer less sometime later. We begin to suffer less right away, and we will suffer much less sometime later. It's like a baby that is crying. That's the first energy of suffering. And the second energy is the mother. The mother hears the baby crying. She goes to the baby's room and she picks the baby up and she holds the baby very tenderly, embracing the baby. And after a while, the baby suffers less. So the same thing is true with the practice of mindfulness of suffering. Mindfulness is the mother, and suffering is the baby. If the mother knows how to hold the baby, and the baby will suffer less after a few minutes. And this is what we are going to practice this morning. And everyone is invited to participate in the practice. And how? The monks and the nuns will practice chanting. They chant the name of Avalokita. Avalokita is a person very well known in the Buddhist tradition. And that is a good practitioner of mindfulness. Avalokita knows how to go home to himself, embrace the suffering in himself, and listen deeply to the suffering inside. And that is why we call him the Bodhisattva of deep listening, the Bodhisattva of compassionate listening. And we can learn to do like Avalokita. So when the monks and the nuns chant NamoValokiteshvara for the first time, they go home to themselves and try to recognize and embrace the suffering in them. Because the monks and the nuns, they have their own suffering also. But they know how to take care of the suffering inside. They don't try to run away from their suffering. And there are lay people who know to do that too. Many of them are sitting here with us. And the purpose of recognizing, embracing, listening to suffering inside is to allow understanding to arise. If the mother continue to hold the baby for some time, she will discover why the baby suffers. So if we know how to hold our suffering long enough, we will understand why we suffer. And when we understand like that, another energy will be born. That is the energy of compassion. You know, the energy of compassion. It's a wonderful energy. The energy of compassion is the kind of energy that can help us suffer less right away. The energy of compassion has the power to heal our spirit and heal our body also. So understanding suffering always brings about compassion that can heal and transform. Suppose you look at another person, and if you have enough time to look at him or her, you will see the suffering in that person. You need more than 3 minutes in order to look and see the suffering in him or in her. And that person may be your father, your mother. Adults, they also have suffering. So if you see the suffering in that person, and if you understand why he or she suffer like that, and then you are no longer angry at him or her. Understanding suffering bring about compassion, and with compassion you are not angry anymore, and you like to say something or to do something to help him or her suffer less. So that is the mechanism of the transformation. To see the suffering, to listen to the suffering, to understand the suffering, to allow compassion to be born, and you get the healing, and you are free from anger, and you don't suffer anymore. And that is why we remember that when understanding of compassion, understanding of suffering is there, compassion is there also to heal us and heal the other person. And when the monks and the nuns chant NamoValokiteshvara for the second time, they reach out and recognize the suffering in the people in front of them, on the left, on the right, because every one of us has suffering inside. So during the second time of chanting, they allow themselves to be in touch with the suffering of the people in front, behind, on the left, on the right. And the purpose is exactly the same, to allow understanding and compassion to be born, to heal us. And when they chant for the third time, they reach out to the world and get in touch with the suffering in the world. There is war, killing, death going on a little bit everywhere in the world. In the Middle East, in Asia, in Africa, everywhere there are airplanes that crash and hundreds of people die. The suffering is everywhere, violence, poverty, war. So when the monks and the nuns chant the name for the third time, they get in touch with the suffering in the world and allow compassion to be born. And they get the healing, because the monks and the nuns, they also need healing like the rest of us. And they know how to do it, because they have been trained to do that. And many of our lay practitioners also know how to do that. They have practiced mindfulness for 3 years, 4 years, 10 years or more, and they know how to do that. And 1 week in Plum Village is enough for us to learn the practice of mindfulness of suffering, so that we can heal ourselves. And while chanting together practicing mindfulness of suffering, they generate a collective energy of mindfulness of suffering, a collective energy of peace, a collective energy of compassion. And it will fill up this meditation hall, that energy, collective energy of mindfulness and compassion. And if we allow ourselves to be penetrated by this kind of collective energy, we can get the healing at the same time as the monks. But we should know how to do that, because sitting in the meditation hall, and if we continue to think about the things outside, and then we are not really inside. Our body is here, but our mind is not here. So in order to be here, in the zone of collective energy of mindfulness, we should know how to stop our thinking. No thinking. No more thinking. Just breathing and feeling. And if you do want to stop your thinking, there is many ways. And the best way to stop the thinking is to focus all your attention on the in-breath and the out-breath. Just pay attention, I am breathing in, I am breathing out, no thinking. And you focus your attention on the sound of the chanting. And if you are focusing on the chanting, on the in-breath and out-breath, you stop the thinking naturally. And you will be established in the here and the now, and allow the energy of the collective energy of mindfulness, peace and compassion to penetrate into our body and mind. We have a lot of tension in our body. We have tried to release the tension, but sometimes we don't succeed. And now it is possible for us to allow the tension to be released. Imagine you are a drop of water in the river. You don't struggle anymore. You allow the whole river to embrace you and to transport you to the ocean. And we practice like this morning. Sitting in the Sangha, in the community of practice, we breathe in and out and we say, dear brothers, dear sisters in the practice, here is my pain, here is my sorrow, here is my anger, here is my loneliness. Please help embrace them for me. You allow yourself to be embraced by the collective energy of mindfulness and compassion. And if you allow the energy to penetrate into your body, and then you can release the tension in your body easily, and if in a few minutes you feel lighter, you surrender to the Sangha. You surrender yourself to the energy of collective energy of mindfulness. And this can be done right this morning. And if you have a lot of anger, fear, loneliness, despair in your heart, it's time to open your heart and allow the collective energy of mindfulness, peace and compassion to embrace. And you will suffer less after some time of listening. You might have a member of the family who is sick, who suffers deeply, who cannot come to Plum Village this time. And this morning you can send this energy to him or to her at home just by thinking of that person, calling the name of that person silently, and this energy will be sent to that person at home or in the hospital right in the present moment. So let us prepare ourselves. Let us sit relaxingly, like Thai. He is not tense, he is very relaxed. And follow our in-breath and out-breath, and allow our body to be embraced by the quality energy of the Sangha. If during the time you listen, you practice, you have the desire to cry, and you can allow yourself to cry, but always allow yourself to be embraced by the Sangha, like a drop of water allowing herself to be embraced by the river.
Sāthu.